We're asked to use the graph to find the domain and range. The domain represents all the possible x values on this graph. And so I think Desmos could have made it more clear, but this looks like a curved line. So I think it's going to, I'm looking at x equals -5 right here. I think it's going to keep going to -6, -7 on the x-axis, -8 on the x-axis. So since they gave us an arrow, I'm going to assume that it goes as far back as -infinity. And then I put a comma, because with interval notation, we always go smallest to largest. So -infinity is as small as we can go. +3 looks to be as big as we can go. And then we need a bracket there, because there's a closed dot, there's a filled-in dot. That means exactly x equals 3 is possible. The range represents all the possible y values. So y equals -5 is possible. That's a part of the graph. Y equals -6 is possible. And there's an arrow, so that means it just keeps going down and down. So -infinity is the lower bound. I guess it's not the right math word to use though. But there is no lower bound because we keep going down and down. So that's why we're using -infinity for the starting point. And then how high can we go on the graph? It looks like y equals 3 is possible. And so I'm going to use a bracket because we're going to assume we can get exactly y equals 3 out of it. And there we go. So that's the domain range, just all the possible x and all the possible y values. Different graph this time. Same idea though. What's the lowest possible x value? Well, -5 is on this graph, but they gave us an arrow, so that means eventually we're going to get to -6. Eventually we're going to get to -7, -8, -9. So the domain, -infinity is the left part of the interval notation. And then they also have an arrow over here, so that implies the graph keeps going. So +infinity. Those are all the possible x values. -7, -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All these are going to be possible if we extend that arrow. And the range is how low and how high we can go. Now if we look at just the y-axis for the range, the lowest place is -3. We'll use a bracket because we can assume we actually reach -3. And what's the highest y value possible? It never stops going up, right? So +infinity. Skip that one. Okay, don't look in case you get those ones. Last one here. Remember, domain is the x values. And since they have an arrow, that means it goes on infinitely this way. So -2 is eventually going to be possible on the x-axis. -3, -4, these will all be possible. So again, for this one, -infinity for the left part of the interval notation. The right part, this one terminates at x equals 4. So 4 is the highest possible x value. For the range, the lowest possible value on the y-axis is -2. Remember, we always use parentheses for infinity. I haven't been emphasizing that in this video. But -2 is the lowest possible y value. Highest possible y value, we're never going to get higher. Oh, actually, I missed something. -infinity, we need a parentheses. Because I forgot about this arrow. This arrow is slowly going down, right? So eventually we're going to get the -8, -9, -10 on the y-axis. So -infinity is the lowest possible y value, but the highest possible y value, that one we can be confident, that one is 3.